Truly, in writing this work, first, to satisfy myself, I drew out all the virtues of the vulgar common herbs, plants, and trees, etc., from the best or most approved authors I had or could get. And having done so, I set myself to study the reason of them. I knew well enough the whole world and everything in it is formed of a composition of contrary elements, and in such a harmony as must needs show the wisdom and power of a great God. I knew as well this creation, though thus composed of contraries, was one united body, and the human is an epitome of it. I knew those various affections in the human, in respect of sickness and health, were caused naturally by the various operations of the microcosm, though God may have other ends best known to himself. And I could not be ignorant that, as the cause is, so must the cure be. And therefore he that would know the reason of the operation of the herbs must look up as high as the stars, astrologically. I always found that the disease will vary according to the various motions of the stars, and this is enough, one would think, to teach us by the effect where the cause lies. I consulted with my two brothers, Dr. Reason and Dr. Experience, and took a voyage to visit my mother Nature, by whose advice, together with the help of Dr. Diligence, and, being warned by Mr. Honesty, a stranger in our days, I at last obtained my desire to publish to the world, and I have done it. First, the admirable harmony of the creation is herein seen, in the influence of stars upon herbs, and also on the body of the human. How much more does the wisdom and excellency of God appear if we consider the harmony of the creation in the virtue and operation of every herb. Secondly, hereby you may know what infinite knowledge Adam had in his innocence, that by looking upon a creature he was able to give it a name according to its nature. Thirdly, here is the right way for thee to begin the study of physic, if thou art minded to begin at the right end, for here thou hast the reason of the whole art. I wrote before in certain astrological lectures which I read and printed, entitled Astrological Judgment of Diseases, what planet caused every disease, and how it might be found out what planet caused it. Here thou hast what planet cures it by sympathy and antipathy. First, consider what planet causeth the disease. Second, consider what part of the body is afflicted by the disease, and whether it lies in the flesh or blood or bones or ventricles. Third, consider by what planet the afflicted part of the body is governed. Fourth, you may oppose diseases by herbs of the planet opposite to the planet that causes them. Fifth, there is a way to cure diseases, sometimes by sympathy, and so every planet cures its own disease, as the sun and moon, by their herbs, cure the eyes. Saturn's herbs cure the spleen and bones, Jupiter the liver, Mars the gallbladder, and Venus the diseases in the instruments of generation. Fortify the body with herbs of the nature of the Lord of the Ascendant, whether that ruler be fortunate or unfortunate. Let your medicine be antithetical to the lord of the sixth, the house of illness. If the lord of the 10th be strong, make use of that medicine. Consider that different shires give diverse names to the same herb, and that the name which it bears in one country is not known in another. Asparagus is under the dominion of Jupiter. It rises up with green scaly heads, very brittle and easy to break while they are young. It has been grown as a vegetable for many centuries. The young buds boiled in ordinary broth make the belly soluble and open, and boiled in white wine it provokes the urine if stopped, and it is good against the difficulty of making water. It expelleth the gravel and stone from the kidneys, and helps with pains in the lower back. The decoction of the roots boiled in wine is good to clear the sight, and being held in the mouth, it eases toothache. Catnip is an herb of Venus. Catnip has 4 square stalks with a hoariness on them, a yard high or more, full of branches, bearing at every joint 2 broad leaves and a strong sweet scent. It is effectual for any cramp or cold aches, to dissolve cold and wind, and is used for coughs and shortness of breath. The juice thereof drank in wine is profitable for those who are bruised by an accident. The green herb bruised and applied to the fundament, and lying there 2 or 3 hours, eases the pains of the piles, and the juice of catnip, also being made up into an ointment, is effectual for the same purpose. Hemp is one of the oldest known cultivated plants, grown for at least 8,000 years. The earliest evidence suggests it may have originated in Central Asia. Hemp is so well known to every good housewife in the country that I shall not need to write any description of it. It is a plant of Saturn, and good for something else, you see, than to make rope only. The seed of hemp consumes wind, and by too much use thereof disperses it so much that it dries up the natural seed for procreation. Yet, being boiled in milk and taken, helps those who have a hot, dry cough. The Dutch make an emulsion out of the seed, and give it with good success to those that have the jaundice, especially in the beginning of the disease, if there be no fever accompanying. For it opens obstructions in the gallbladder and causes digestion of bile. Hemp is held very good to kill the worms in man or beast. The decoction of the root allays inflammations of the head, or any other parts. The herb itself, or the distilled water thereof, does the same. It eases the pains of gout, the hard humors of knots in the joints, the pains and shrinking of the sinews, and the pains of the hips. The fresh juice mixed and with a little oil and butter is good for any place that had been burnt with fire, being thereto applied. Nettles are an herb that Mars has dominion over. The roots or the leaves boiled and their juices made into an electuary with honey and sugar is a safe and sure medicine to open the pipes and passages of the lungs, which is the cause of wheezing and shortness of breath, and nettles help expectorate tough phlegm. The juice is also effectual to settle the palate of the mouth in its place. and to heal and temper the inflammations and soreness of the mouth and throat. Our ordinary garden sage needs no description. Jupiter claims it and bids me tell you it is good for the liver and to create blood. A decoction of the leaves and branches of sage, made and drank, provoke urine, brings down women's courses, and causes the hair to become black. It stays the bleeding of wounds and cleanses foul ulcers. 3 spoonfuls of the juice of sage, taken while fasting, with a little honey, doth presently stay the spitting or casting of blood of them that have consumption. It is very profitable for pains of the joints, whether inward or outward, and therefore helps with falling sickness, lethargy, and helps those that are dull and heavy of spirit. The juice of sage taken in warm water helps a hoarseness and a cough. Sage is of excellent use to help the memory, warming and quickening the senses, and the conserve made of the flowers is used to the same purpose. As with other hot and comfortable herbs, sage is boiled to bathe the body and the legs in the summertime, especially to warm cold joints or sinews, troubled with palsy and cramp, and to comfort and strengthen parts. Gargles, likewise, are made with sage, rosemary, honeysuckle, and plantain, boiled in wine or water with some honey or alum put thereto, to wash sore mouths and throats, cankers, or the secret parts of man or woman as need requires. Roses. What a pother have authors made with roses! What a racket have they kept! I shall add, red roses are under Jupiter, damask rose under Venus, white rose is under the moon. The white and red roses are cooling and drying, and yet the white rose is taken to exceed the red in both properties, but is seldom used inwardly in any medicine. The bitterness in all roses when they are fresh, especially the juice, purges bile and watery humors. But being dried, and that heat which caused the bitterness being consumed, they have then a binding and astringent quality. Those also that are not in full bloom do both cool and bind more than those in full bloom, and the white rose more than the red rose. The decoction of red roses made with wine is very good for the headache and pains in the eyes, ears, throat, and gums. Also for the lower part of the belly and the matrix, being bathed or put into them. The same decoction, with the roses remaining in it, is profitably applied to the region of the heart to ease the inflammation therein. Also for St. Anthony's fire and other diseases of the stomach. Being dried and beaten to powder and taken in steeled wine or water, the rose helps to stay women's courses. Red rose especially strengthens the heart, the stomach, and the liver. They mitigate the pains that arise from heat, and assuage inflammations, and procure rest and sleep